Welcome back to another episode of Matter of Fact. I'm Tommy, here with Rob, per usual. And today, we will be talking about the biggest doom humanity has seen since I don't think ever. We've seen probably worse ones.
Some stuff, but
since like the meteors hit and like there's only like a 1,000 people left worldwide. A big doom. Tell them about the doom, Rob.
well, we'll see. I mean, a lot of people, there's mixed thoughts, but a lot of people dooming right now, saying that we're on a population decline that will lead to the end of us here. So, how's that all going to happen? I think mostly they're talking it's going to happen economically. So again, you could probably control that, but we'll see. Let's see what they say on our video.
All right, we about to get into it.
People are having fewer and fewer children. There are more and more elderly people. A demographic collapse is looming, and rural towns are emptying. Well, I'm sure many of you think that this is no big deal. Yes, it will be a problem. But we've already gone through the 2008 crisis, the 2012 financial crisis, COVID, the Ukraine war. All these events have had a brutal impact on many countries, and yet the world has continued to turn. So, is it really such a big danger that we're having fewer and fewer children? In economics, the answer to almost everything is it depends. But this is one of the few cases in which we can say yes. A resounding and undeniable yes. The birth rate crisis is not just another crisis, but the crisis, with capital letters. In fact, it may signal a change of era, an era of constant economic degradation, sustained for hundreds of years. Visual economic community, human history has never, ever experienced a scenario of sustained demographic loss over time. We're entering a phase that will change human history. Many people don't see all the dangers of this crisis because, after all, the global population is still increasing. But keep it...
So, I mean, like...
Sounds bad. The way he puts it. What do you think? Is it? You think it's as bad as he says? That sounds bad.
See, I think you can make anything sound bad.
I agree.
And I think what this guy is good at doing, what he's doing right now, is he said something very key. He was like, we're entering a phase that we've never entered. You feel me? So they don't know if it's good or bad. They don't fucking know. But he over here like, oh, this is the worst shit ever because we don't know what's going to happen. Hey, shit hasn't been good, my nigga. If you look around, I don't know where you've been, but shit hasn't been good, my nigga. So, shit, it might be a good thing.
Yeah. There's pros and cons to everything.
One thing. The peak number of births globally was in 2012. Or to put it another way, the world's population behaves like a vehicle with the brakes on. When you step on the brake, you keep going a few meters, yes, but much slower. And before you know it, you're at a standstill. And the worst thing is that I wish it were as simple as that. When you slow down a car, you stop. But the population will not do the same. Not only will it stop increasing, but it will go backwards. This will happen in a few years. Yes, perhaps around the year 2084, or perhaps many years before. By that time, however, much of the damage will have been done. The crisis will be so great that it will change absolutely everything.
If you're a man who makes at least 150 grand a year and you're still embarrassed to take your shirt off at the pool, I will...
So, I mean, he gave a far out date there.
Yeah.
25, I'll be dead. Probably. Yeah.
He said 2084.
2084, that's a weird one. Anyway, like George Orwell type shit or whatever.
He said that's when it will reverse. And I'm like, alright, I mean, my nigga, like, at that point, you tell me, like, how many billions of people are going to be here? Maybe it will need to reverse.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think there's so many people right now that we probably don't need all those people. Throughout history, humans, like many other animals, would kind of keep their own race in check, their own species in check. I mean, you know what I mean? As a lot of animals do. Like we did. We went to war. humans went to war throughout their history, and we still do to today. We're doing those things, and that affects the population a lot. We do it a little bit differently than we used to, but it does keep population down. We're having fewer kids, and like, why would you, like you said, the opportunity your kid is going to have a better life than you, like that was kind of the American dream type of thing, and an expectation, and people don't have that expectation anymore. So it's like, do I want to bring a slave into the world? What do you think, Tommy? Are you planning on having kids? Are you going to contribute to this demographic collapse? Or are you going to prop us up and keep humanity strong?
One,
big decision. You got to make it now, bro.
yeah, I want to have kids, definitely.
All right, Tommy's going to. How many you have? We need at least 2 for replacement. That replaces you and your girl.
I would say at least 4 or 5.
All right, so Tommy's gonna bring us back from the deficit, guys. There you go. Strong.
I got y'all.
Strong.
I got y'all. What about you?
Nah, I'm good. Yeah.
So you gonna contribute?
Yeah, I'm gonna contribute to the decline. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I don't want to bring somebody into a bad world. Where they're not gonna have.
So you don't got no hope.
Do I think it's going to get better anytime soon? I doubt it. You know what I mean? I just don't think that. I think it has to take like that major tipping point, where like, we're going to clearly collapse and somebody is elected to a high level and they can actually do something. But
We're there. Trump's there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. No, Trump's doing the same shit that everybody else did. Like, you can't really knock him because, isn't making it worse probably, but so did everybody else for the most part.
Yeah, that's facts.
Just give money to the rich people, and the more you do that, inequality builds. And again, we're a consumer-based economy, and we're not going to be able to consume anymore. So
that's a matter of fact.
And there's no need to speculate about this. You are now seeing on the screen the evolution of France's GDP per capita during the 20th century, and you can clearly see the 2 world wars which destroyed the whole of Europe. And yet the impact on long-term growth was nil. And even this is not true, because World War II triggered an unprecedented economic boom thanks to the Marshall Plan and the US dominance that followed. World wars were a devastating blow, but one from which we were able to recover. On the other hand, the population crisis will make the economy behave like most of its inhabitants, weaker and slower, slowly but with little hope of improvement. Do you want an example? Take Japan. Back in the day, Japan was the #1 example of what to do if your country wanted to grow. However, since the 1990s or so, its economy has been completely stagnant. The reason? Well, it's a whole genre unto itself. So much has been written about its stagnation that it almost has its own section in libraries, like romance or science fiction. But there's a very simple but undeniable explanation. Japan has done poorly because it's a very old country. Its GDP per capita is stagnant, but its GDP per worker has had the best growth of all the OECD countries over the last decade. Japan has actually done very well, but when you have such an aging population, even that's not enough. The economy...
So they kind of said that just there, like, it has the biggest GDP per worker. Like, so that means, like, yeah, if you're working, you're doing okay, though. Like, and I think that's what, like, younger people and everybody wants. Like, everybody who's young, if you're working, you can live. And like, you can't do that in modern America. So, I don't know if you can do that in modern Japan. I know it's just probably tough over there. The average worker's age that they say is 52 years old. So, and so they've been stacking the money. Like, but as a young person, what are the opportunities like there? I don't know.
What's the average age of a worker in the U.S.?
In the U.S., I don't know that statistic off the top of my head.
Why you know Japan?
I don't know, because I read and watch a lot of shit, so I heard that one. This guy might even say it in this part here. Who knows? It's a common thing that they talk about, because like you said, Japan, there's books about it, there's everything about it. Japan is one of the first countries that they recognize this decline with. However, there are countries that are surpassing Japan's rate of decline now. With China did their one-child policy, they're finding the repercussions of that. China's declining rapidly. And then there's a lot of other countries that you'd be surprised are like below 1 at this current time. So.
Including America.
We're still above 1. I think we're like 1.7, and again, replacement they say is 2.1.
See, I'm gonna bring it back. Yeah, I mean, like, I will say when I was studying abroad in Japan, I saw mad old people.
And they live extra long in Japan. Like, they got our lifespan plus 10. Like, if they made an
Yeah.
RPG character, you pick Japan, that's their attribute, like life expectancy plus 10.
Yeah.
Like, all of them. So,
Yeah, there was mad old people, not too many young people. I mean, there was a good amount. Maybe them niggas was at work. I don't know.
maybe.
Yeah.
So the biggest fear then is, like, as all these people get old, like how are we gonna take care of them? It's expensive to care for the elderly and all that sort of shit. But I mean, if all these elderly people got money, well, shit, they could pay for it, and then
Right.
people got jobs taking care of the elderly. I don't know. Maybe that works.
Yeah, but like, I feel like I hate these.
Did great
Doomsday
display leaps
ass
and bounds? How far will the impact of the global population crisis go? How will it affect human development? And the most important question, can anything be done to combat it before it's too late? Well, today on Visual Economic, we tell you all about it.
Yes, you gotta fun like crazy. If you a man,
Let's
you
start
gotta
with the
go
most
get
important
hella
question.
old.
Why are people having fewer children? Answer, nobody knows. We've already told you about this on this channel several times, but there are no definitive answers. We do know two things though. The first is that it's a global phenomenon. Many people still have the idea that in India, North Africa, or the Middle East, people still have 10 children. But the average in these regions is actually a little more than 2 children per woman. That's barely the replacement rate, which means that they are very close to a loss as well. And let's not even talk about Latin America, because the average there is only 1.8 children. The other thing we know is that the trend has continued downward, even though the primary mechanism has changed
Makes
over
sense.
time. In the 1970s, most of the drop in births was due to families having fewer children. However, since then, the main component is not that families are having 2 children instead of 4, but that couples are forming that don't have any children at all. In fact, these days, that is almost the only cause, the lack of stable couples.
Well, not
Yes,
even
existing
couples,
couples
just
have
lone-
low numbers of children, but
lone-
in
lone
Finland,
wolf.
a married couple is more likely to
Yeah.
divorce than to have a child. But this is
Yeah.
not the most significant thing. The most important thing is that couples are longer formed. Whatever.
That's the more significant thing, that couples are no longer formed. So, you know what I mean? So even the ones that do, a lot of them that do, I think in the U.S., the percentage is okay, but the fact that the rate of couples is so low and then that some aren't is the bigger factor again. You know what I mean? Just like that math problem is.
I mean, I think like what he said before that was crazy too. He said that if you get married, you're more likely to get divorced than have a kid.
And that's facts. You know what I mean? And that's just the way our, and it's crazy. I think I got to bring this book over for you to read, The Moral Animal. And you get a lot of like what was going on in terms of how society worked and keeping people together, and the concept of monogamy and things like that. Are we naturally monogamous creatures? What's the answer to that question? That's a whole nother video. But the way that we shape things is not just how are we as animals. It's what is our environment, and we shape the environment, right? So those two things come into play, and then our animal instincts really can't change as much as we can affect the social environment around us can, in terms of adaptation and shit like that. So, I think right now the society is just not headed in the right direction, because just the natural basics of animal instinct is women look to men for resources, as a provider, for protection. That's just the natural, for parental investment. That if they are going to have young, that this person is going to stay there and help raise the young, because that's what our species requires. That sort of thing. And, as there's less viable men, if women are making more than men, then they see them as not viable, or, not college educated and things like that. And obviously, well, then the amount of, and social media and the awareness of all these guys, that you can talk to somebody across the country or in other countries altogether, leads women to chase the same men. And then a lot of people aren't getting any attention at all, and there you go.
Yeah, summed it up pretty much perfectly. Let's see what else this dude got to say.
The truth is that the causes don't really matter right now. The
Where's he
demographic
from?
winter
Is he from
is
Britain?
coming.
Probably.
For whatever reason,
Or
this will
Australia.
change how many hours we'll
They're
have to
the same,
work,
though.
the types of jobs we will do, and of course, will also affect
But,
government pensions in many countries. If there's one thing that we all need to be clear about, it's that the number of young people between 15 and 64 years of age will plummet compared to that of older people by the year 2050, which is not that far off either. In the developed countries of Europe and Asia, there won't even be 2 workers for every pensioner. But it's not just the richest countries that are the problem. Between 1997 and 2050, India's dependency ratio will have gone from 14 young people for every retiree to fewer than 5. And overall,
So, can you explain this chart to the people?
So, yeah, so they're showing that, you know, if you're looking at whatever age you're currently at, and, you know, and then at what time frame those are going to be there. So, always the younger generation is far behind, as you see in that red dot, except for, what is that one outlier there? Sub-Saharan Africa. Where it still lags way behind, but they do have a middle generation that seems to be kind of thriving there. But just overall, looking at all those blue numbers, that's going to be the old people, and then they're going to die, and when they die, and the next generation is just going to be where the red dots are. Just think of it that way.
But now they're green.
Well, then the green dots, but then eventually the red dots, and then what's below the red dots? You know what I mean? Like, that's the fear I think people have. Is because that does, when you illustrate it like that and you see those peaks and then eventually where it's going to get to, you know, it's pretty significant.
I think this is a bias ass chart because there's not that many niggas that are going to be in that age group in 2050, right? Because niggas are still being born. Niggas are still being born.
Well, yeah, no, but and this is in proportion to
the amount of people that are here now.
No, it's the number of young people that'll be 15 to 64 for every person that's going to be 65.
Yeah.
You know, so right now, like, there's, you know, 6 for every, you know, essentially probably whatever number that they're going to be using. So, and then soon it's going to be like 2.5, you know, for in advanced Asia. So there are going to be that many young people to take care of every 65-year-old person. And 65 and up, essentially, those people are just taking resources and not giving many. So that's the problem, right?
And they going to just kill them off. Those are here first.
Yeah.
Over the next 25 years.
I don't know if we
it's
explained that well
set
enough, but
Yeah, I mean,
you know, but so yeah, the point, like, you know, if you had 6 people to take care of every 1 old people versus 2.5 people to take care of every 1 old people, or in like this other example here, if you had 12 people to take care of every 1 old people versus, you know, because obviously the 15 to 64 is a much larger range of people, so there should be more of them. But the fact that they're going to dwindle that much in comparison is where the problem is. When you have 2 to 1, so you have two young people, two people that are 15 to 64 for every person that's 65. That's crazy, right? So that means a lot of old people. So 1 in 3 people that you walk into is going to be an old person that's over 65. That's kind of what that's saying. I hope that makes better sense. I don't know. Does that make better sense?
let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
And half. But guess what? There's another way of looking at this that generates even more fear. Right now, in the US, the consumption deficit of the elderly, that is, the amount of money that the elderly need and have not been able to save during their lives, which is the money that young people have to transfer to the elderly, amounts to 26% of the income of all workers. The question is, how much will this figure rise to in the year 2050? In that case, we're talking about 35%. And the US is still going to be
It'll
lucky
rise
because in the
35%?
richer Asian countries, we're talking about almost 50%. In other words, in many countries in the year 2050, each worker will have to pay half of what he or she earns in taxes just to finance the consumption of retirees. Put another way, as we have said many times before, challenge it.
So again, that's choice, right? What if you took most of the money from the uber rich, What if they were taxed at
That's what I was about to
80%
say.
like they used to be historically here in the United States? Well, then that changes everything, right? That changes the entire country. That changes a lot, especially as these people's wealth
What if you
becomes
don't get-
greater and greater,
Exactly. That's what I'm
Then it
thinking. Like,
matters, I'm
'cause
like,
they
where's
have
he
the
money?
getting
You're not
this-
going to get it from the people that don't have any money if all the money
Literally.
is with the top 2%.
and it's like, bro, like maybe you cannot give the military $150 billion grant.
And right now, like he says that there is a lot of elderly people that are super wealthy. They are the wealthiest generation ever right now, and they have the most wealth currently. But there are some of them that aren't doing well. Well, right now, most of the old people I see that if you're not doing well, nobody's here to save you. I mean, you got what you got, and you're out there. So you're in this country at least. You know what I mean? That's just how it works, right?
Yeah.
Don't you see that? Like,
Yeah.
that's the way our country is. It's not like, oh, you have to pay extra to help these people. It's like, no, we don't really do that. Like, you're on your own, bro.
Yeah. That's America.
Unless we change that, like, we either change the taxes where we're taxing rich people more, or,
Oh, yeah.
or you're going to change Americans' culture to make us care. I don't think we're going to care.
No. How about this? We tax only rich people and immigrants.
Tax them more, at least. I pay a little bit, you know what I mean? I'm willing to give a share, but them the most, for sure.
Who, the rich people or the immigrants?
Both. All the above.
But who more? The immigrants?
No, the rich people, because you're
Okay,
going
see?
to get more money.
You're a real
from
nigga.
them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, let's tax an immigrant. It depends. Some immigrants got bread, you know what I mean? But a lot of them, unless legal immigrants, they probably got money. Illegal immigrants, like,
You're not even getting that.
you ain't getting that barely, you know what I mean? I'd rather go after the dude who has billions of dollars than the dude who's making like $30K.
That's true.
Colossal. Of course, there is another alternative, that retirees consume less. And yes, I know what many of you are thinking. How can a group that is already so vulnerable consume less? And let's see. It's true that there are very vulnerable retirees with very low pensions and who cannot work. But let's face it, the over 65s are the group with the lowest risk of poverty in almost all rich countries except South Korea. In Spain, for example, only 1 in 5 people over the age of 65 is at risk of poverty, while for those under the age of 30, it's 1 in 3. In any case, this won't be the only challenge we will face in the future. Think, for example, about housing. These days, young people under the age of 40 years, have a very, very difficult time accessing housing. Seniors are the ones who decide elections, and seniors are the ones who own homes that they would not be able to sell or rent for as much money if politicians allowed more homes to be built and caused prices to go down. You get the point, don't you? And yes, at some point, young people will inherit these homes, but let's keep 2 things in mind. To begin with, age is just a number that they will inherit when they are 50 or 60 years old. So that's not young at all. And on top of that, these homes will start to lose all their value when people start to inherit them, simply because there will no longer be people left to compete for them. And there will be more than enough homes. That is, the savings in real estate will plummet for everyone. The worst thing is that this is just an anecdote compared to the real problem. An aging population means less economic growth. Broadly speaking, we could say that economic growth depends on 3 things. How many people are working, how many hours each person works, and how productive he or she is in each hour. Think, for instance, about how the public debt is paid. The more people there are working, the easier it will be to pay that bill. In other words, the more people there are, the more money will be available to finance productive investments, instead of just paying government debt or pensions. Or with a demographic collapse, the opposite is true. But with that cleared up, let's go.
See, like, you could look at that, but you could also just say, you know what is our GDP? If our GDP is so big, the money's there somewhere, right? And you go and you're gonna find out wherever it is, and you get it from those people. What part of the GDP went to you, to you, to you? And if this guy had 20% of GDP, well, we're gonna tax that motherfucker 10 of it. Fuck you, bro. 50's ours.
Alright, I mean, it sounds like you
what I
man
mean?
hostile. I want you to look in the camera and call out the person that you're talking to directly.
No, I don't I don't have anybody directly. I'm just saying, but like that makes sense.
Like Elon Musk.
Like
Elon.
he, well, I guess people
He
have
gave you money though.
No, I never got my money from Elon.
You did?
My friend did. I never got my money from Elon. So yeah,
Oh,
fuck
Elon. Oh yeah, fuck you, Elon.
You cheap little punk. You know what I mean? For a billionaire, fucking cheap
Bitch
ass
ass.
motherfucker. Right? Can't even give somebody $100, $200. Shame on you, bro. But that's another video altogether. Anyway, but like you know what I mean, right? Like right now they say, oh, our GDP keeps going up, blah 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 blah. But if it's not going to everybody equally, well then obviously the taxes isn't gonna go, because if you're only getting so much from this guy, but he's getting more and more, and you only take so much from him, well, you know what I mean? Especially if there's all these loopholes and bullshit like that. It's like, well, yeah, of course we're not going to be anywhere. You know what I mean? It's like when we're left with a bunch of poor people that are getting welfare, well, yeah, they're taking more than they're getting. So take that portion of the population out, and what's left, and we're getting nothing. You know what I mean?
But that's a fact. Let us know in the comments what y'all think. Is this going to be the end of the world, as they say, more than global warming, more than anything? The fact motherfuckers not fucking, or yeah, are you gonna be like Rob, or are you gonna be like me?
We don't need, we have robots and shit coming our way anyway. You don't need as many people, but as long as we can have an economy, which right now we're a consumer based economy, so somehow people have to have money to consume things, or eventually it's gonna run out of gas.
I mean, yeah, but you just need enough niggas. You don't need that many. You just
That's what I'm saying. Keep the population low, bro. You just need enough. We don't need too many. We got too many of them right now. You know, like in that sort of economy, we can't have anybody on welfare. Everybody's got to be working. No freebies for nobody then. You know, because fuck that. You know what I mean? No freebies for nobody. So I understand that then when the Republicans come in. It's like, why are we getting more population and no freebies? Everybody's working. We're using everybody. What are you doing here if you're not useful?
That might be a matter of fact.
Matter of fact.
Let us know in the comments what y'all think. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.